Hi, and welcome to an overview of MYOB Greentree and Business Process Manager, or more commonly referred to as BPM. BPM forms part of the workflow suite of modules in Greentree. So let's take a look and see where BPM fits in. At the base or the foundation level, we have workflow desks. Desks are data or information presented to the user or users, allowing them to monitor or to track progress of data through the system. This is live data, so a user can easily see what stage transactions are at. Next up is the Alerts and Approvals engine. This is a powerful tool that not only performs approvals, sending alerts either by email, text, or as notification within the workflow desks, but can also perform updates. For example, if a customer exceeds their credit limit, then they can automatically put on hold and a notification sent to the credit control team informing them of this. Next up, escalations. So using alerts and approvals, escalations is a way of sending a notification to a user or another other user, such as supervisor, team leader, or manager, when an action is not performed, thereby escalating an action or a request. Lastly, BPM. So as the diagram shows, BPM sits very much at the top of the tree or the hierarchy within workflow. BPM allows you to graphically design your business processes and potentially maximize the use of all the components of the workflow suite shown here. So, by having some defined processes set up in your system within BPM, you can automate it. So the processes can be automated. This ensures having a consistent approach and taking away reduction of errors. Consistency. New staff are easier to train and everyone has a clear definition of what the process is. Visibility. Transactions can easily be tracked and viewed in the system, again, via the workflow desk to see what stage things are at. So let's take a look at a couple of simple examples of how BPM could work. In this first example, we've created a BPM process whereby when a customer applies for a new account, we're going to step them through, we're going to record their request. When the request comes in, we're going to create the new customer by making them inactive. We're going to send them an application form. We're going to wait for that application form. Once they've sent the details back, then we've got the concept of a decision tree here. Is it accepted? If it is, then we send them another document saying that it's successful. If it's not, we call them. Once they are successful, their account is activated and they can be used. So this is interacting across the system, creating documents, and therefore creating a process flow. As I mentioned briefly earlier, this is how the process is designed within BPM. Now let's go and do it. We make use of a workflow desk. We make use of the workflow desk here to start my process. This is my process here. That was the same name you might have noticed on the BPM rule. I start this off. I'm creating a customer account. Okay, here is my customer, created as per normal. As you can see, what BPM can do is add some text. So I've added some instructions alongside this to help the user in terms of what they should be doing. I've created it. Now what's happened here, if I have a quick look back at that customer, it's created it and it's made the status of inactive, so the customer can't be used. On my workflow desk, you'll see now I have some current process tasks. This is telling me what's going on. So as what I mentioned previously on the overview of BPM, this is telling me at any stage what is going on. You'll have multiple BPM processes going at any one time. This will be telling them. The other thing that's opened in the background here is my application form. So this is the form that I can then save and send to my company with the relevant details that's come from that customer in order for them to fill it out. Once they then fill that out and send it back to me, again from the workflow desk, I can go, yes, mark as complete. Do they pass our criteria? That was coming from the BPM rule to say what the decisions were. Yes, they do. They've filled out the form. We've done the credit checks. Yes, they do. Again, so it moves up from there. I've now created an acceptance form. So this is going back to them saying, thank you very much. Here's your account number. Here's your terms. Here's your credit limit, etc. Once that's done, I then mark as complete. So it's stepping me through the process. I can go back to that customer. This customer is now active and ready to be used. And I've walked them through an approval process all the time. Those steps are recorded as an audit against the customer. To show what's happened along the way. That shows the record and at what times things happen. In this BPM example, I'm accumulating costs in a job. Then once the job is complete, I'm going to transfer the total cost of the job to fixed assets and thereby creating a fixed asset. This could be an example of a construction job. All my costs have been accumulated over a period of time. The BPM steps me through the process, which includes creating a job transaction to clear the balance on the job where all my costs have initially accumulated, creating the fixed asset, and creating the fixed asset purchase to put the cost onto that fixed asset. So while this example may seem a little over the top, it's to demonstrate how BPM can be used across different parts of the system to walk me through the process. Okay, so let's have a look. Here is the graphical display of my process. Several decision points here. Going through and creating those. So let's have a brief look at how this process will work. I have a job here. So instead of starting this process from my workflow desk, as in the previous example, this one is going to work slightly differently. I have a rule looking at job costing and saying if certain conditions are met, then this will fire up my BPM process. My rules are, but it could be any rule that you determine. It's looking at a specific job type, and it's also looking at the status. So therefore, this is an internal project, but it could be called construction job or whatever your job types are in this instance. As soon as I change it to completed, because my job is finished, I save this. My BPM rule kicks in. It says, would you like to create a fixed asset? Yes, I would. It has then fired up my job disbursements, as you can see, and I've also put some narration here about what it should be doing. I just put a notional value of $1,000 on here, but as you can see, it's filled in all these details for me. I've set up a specific activity for what to do. What I can't do is put the amount in, but it's telling me, it's pulling in the balance in that narration field. I'm taking it out of that job. Saving that job disbursement. It's now bringing into here, it's now pulling through my fixed asset. In this instance, it's fairly simplistic and I've just given it the job number. Do I want to create this? Yes, I do. It's pulled in all my defaults as I specified. Again, it's now presenting me with my fixed asset purchase. Please enter a reference. Just to make things easy, I'm just going to give my reference the same as the job number. And put in the values. Because my system's not up to date here, I'm just going to match my posting dates and save. So it's brought me back to my job. So my original job was 5015, that's now 0. It's created a sub-job, this was the process that I determined, it's created a sub-job which clears that initial job out. So my job is now 0. And my fixed asset has been created. Okay, so that was a fairly straightforward example, but it actually had quite a few moving parts there, taking it across from job costing, clearing out the job by creating a new sub-job, creating that job disbursements for me, creating my asset, and also creating the purchase record on that asset. So again, it's another example of BPM working across the system to step me through a process, to keep the process tight and consistent and give me visibility of the process the whole way through. Thank you for your time in watching this video today on the overview of BPM.